Chapter 4: The Forest, Society and Colonialism. In this chapter, we will be dealing with what is a forest, how did the society start to impact on the forest, how the forest got degraded or forest started to disappear due to the influence of colonialism. These all aspects we will be dealing in this unit. You all might be studying in a school where you find benches made of wood, and everything you find, there is something which we get from forest in your school. Even when you write with a pencil, that also is made with the wood of the forest trees only. So these all, in every day-to-day life, we find things which connect us with the forest. We don't know directly that they are from the forest. So in this unit we will be discussing what are the reasons that made the people to do deforestation and what is deforestation. Let us see now. If you look at the Amazon forest or the Western Ghats forests, they are in one pitch, a long stretch forest where you find 500 different varieties of plants and species which are living here, and UN has recognized these as the World Heritage Sites list recently. And now from 1700 to 1995, the people started to cut down the trees. That is 13.9 million square kilometers of the forests are being cleared for various reasons like industrialization or for any other constructions or whatever it is. It is nearly 9.3% of the entire forest cover what we have on the earth. So why did the people do deforestation? Now, why did the man started to do deforestation? Coming to India's background, India is a land where 1/6 of its population truly depends on agriculture. Today we have 3/4 of the population depending on agriculture. So the number of people depending on agriculture started to grow the year by year after. So deforestation means the clearing of the forest for whatever may be the reason. So the forest gets disappeared. The naturally grown trees which are homes for the animals to survive were known as forests. But today they are clearing the forest, and this results in shooting out of the forest from the land, so you get extra land. As the years passed on, the India's population started to grow up year after year. The population is growing. The need for the food to supply food for all the population, so the demand for the food started to increase. In order to match up the requirement of the food requirement, the situations turned in such a way that the Britishers itself directly encouraged to clearing up of the forest. Britishers first thought the clearing of the forest would help the people to do commercial cropping. Commercial cropping, whatever we do the cultivation for earning huge amounts of profit, is known as commercial cropping. This commercial cropping major crops are jute, sugar, cotton, wheat, etc. So they started to do these crops. These are first initially encouraged by the Britishers. So to match up the food requirements of the population growth also, they slowly started to give permissions to clear the forest. They also thought that forests are waste and they are not at all used. If we clear the forest and bring them under the agricultural use, they can collect tax from them. It automatically generates revenue for the Britishers. So in this process, they started to give permission for the people to cut the forest. Britishers, standing at the first, encouraged the people to clear the forest. Now the population who are depending on agriculture started to grow day by day. The need for the food also increased, the demand for the food also increased day by day up. So in order to balance these both, the clearing of the forest has become mandatory. We all have to remember the fundamental that even to plow the soil or till the land, we need the forest to be cleared. Along with that, it was a time when the industries are shooting up at here and there. So to match or to supply the raw materials for the industries, we need the raw materials from the forest to the industry. So for that purpose also, they started to clear the forest to get the raw materials for the industries. And the growth of urbanization, people started to migrate from villages to cities. In order to match up the requirement of the urbanization also, people started to move from one region to another region. So for this all reasons, they started to clear the lands, the forests which are nearby to the cities were being cleared completely to accommodate them, to supply food for them, to do cultivation for them, to supply raw materials for the industries. So there are various reasons which encourage the deforestation. Now, the sleepers. The arrival of the railway track network in India also paved way for the massive destruction of the forests. The oak forests in England were started to get disappearing because they were used in a large number to build the ships which used to be necessary to carry the loads from India to the other countries and also to maintain the Royal Navy ships. It has become a very difficult for them to supply timber for the Royal Navy. So to find a substitute for this, the Britishers have sent search teams in 1820s to find out in India, because India has large amount of forest in existence. So find out whether the timber is available there or not. Yes, the search teams arrived to India, found that in India we have huge amount of timber available. So immediately the orders were given to cut down the timber trees and export the timber from India to England. So that's how the Royal Navy's necessities were being started to be fulfilled, and in India the deforestation started officially. As the time passed on, now the demand or the necessity to have a well connected transport system from the interlands to the outer parts. So we have ships, there is supply of this timber for the ships. Within the inner lands or the hinterland regions to the port areas, we need to have a good connectivity. So they started to lay the railway tracks. In the process of laying the railway tracks, we need a track known as sleepers between the tracks to hold both the tracks together. So the sleepers we need for every mile, we need 1700 to 2000 sleepers which connect both the tracks together. So for this we need again timber trees. So in order to lay the tracks, we need the sleepers first. So for having sleepers, they started to cut down the trees again in large number. So by 1850s, the need for the railway network, fuel and the line holders, sleepers are required. For this all, the basic source is the timber trees. So in 1890, 25,500 kilometers of railway track is laid, and it went on up to 1946. It is 7,65,000 kilometers of railway track lines has been laid down, which shows how much amount of trees are cut. Only in 1850, in Madras Presidency, nearly 35,000 timber trees were cut. So the huge downfall of the timber trees started to because of the Britishers. One, because of to supplement the oak forests which are getting disappeared in England. To substitute that, search teams were sent to India to find out. They came to India, they have done the research, and from here timber started to be exported to other country, especially England, to match the requirements of Royal Navy ships. And later they started to build the railway network in India. So in order to connect both the railway tracks, they need the railway line help sleepers which are made of timber, and nearly 1760 to 2000 for every mile. So all these facilitated for the disappearance of the forests. Plantations. A large piece of land will be cleared to grow a special or a particular crop on a very large scale. That is known as plantations. In this process of making plantations, the British government, the colonial British government, encouraged to destroy the forest and give that vast land for the European planters at very less cost in order to meet the requirements of the European continent. As there is a growing need and demand for tea, coffee and rubber, they gave orders to clear the entire forest, which is in a very vast stretch expanded in India. So they gave orders to clear that one, and that land is given to the European traders at a very, very considerable cost, so that they can cultivate the crop, and from here they can export it to their country, and from there they can earn huge profits. So this idea of plantations also paved the way for clearing the forest and helping hand for deforestation.